Previously on the Frontier Farmer, we have 2 fields that we need to flip. Let's get the manure spreader hooked on. There we go. Right, let's fire on and see how we get on. But we should have enough manure to see us through these 2 fields, hopefully. Lower the cultivator, turn this field over. Fantastic. Look out, Artemus. We are coming through and drilling our wheat. So that's the 2 fields drilled, one with wheat and one with barley. Now I think this can house around 40 to 50 chickens. I think they're really going to enjoy their home here. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Frontier Farmer at the Dark Forest. We are beginning where we left off last time, and Artemus is just having a little rummage in our front garden here. We will have to tidy this up at some stage. Yet we're still in September, and we previously drilled these fields with wheat and barley. And because we drilled them, we now need to roll them to embed the seeds into the ground. So the first job is jumping in the farm, which we've left over by the new chicken coop. And we'll be grabbing the roller so we can get those fields rolled first and foremost today. Now here's the roller. We left the seed drill out of the way. And after we're done with rolling, we will be moving ahead into October. We will have a fresh batch of jobs to do, and some of it will be around the maintenance of our crops. I imagine we're going to get some weeds through after we've moved forward and they've had a chance to germinate and sprout. Yep, so we'll move on to field number 1 first of all. Get the roller lowered, and of course we manure spread these fields, so they're nicely fertilised, and they got a double dose of fertiliser when they then had the seed drill going over them. So yeah, they received primary and secondary fertiliser. We are rolling them now, and that's changing the texture quite nicely, because we did cultivate the stalks from the previous crop in, so we had a mulched texture. You can see some of the stalks dotted around on where we haven't rolled yet, but we are rolling it in and getting these seeds all nicely embedded for germination. So I'm going to whip round here. It's a little bit tricky to see, and the light is fading in the dark forest. And we want to make sure we're finished in good time, because I don't want to be doing this when it's dark. But maybe we can get the lights on. That will help. And we'll get this job all done in both fields. And then we'll be good to have a little rest. See you when we're finished. raising up, and just like that, we've rolled both those fields. So the wheat and barley seeds are all nicely compacted into the ground and should germinate well. We'll get the roller parked up, and then it's off to chill out and bed, really, because we're working a little bit later than we normally do, and we'll probably start a little bit later in the morning once we've got into October, just so yeah, having a good old rest. And that's the seed drill parked up as well. There we go. Right, gonna head on inside, and I'll see you in the morning of October. Ooh, good morning. We're now in October, and it's 9 o'clock. We're starting a little bit later, but that benefits us because we lose a little bit of daylight in the winter months and autumn months, so we are actually benefiting from more light starting later. Now, as mentioned, our two crop fields, our wheat and barley, have germinated, so we've got a lovely first stage of wheat in here. As you can see, we've got some pesky weeds, and I'm sure it's the same situation in field number 2 with our barley. Let's have a little scope. Yes, so it's nicely germinated. We have got some weeds, and we really need to see to these early on because that involves us driving through the field. And if you recall previously, when we had to drive in the field to spray fertilizer, we did actually damage the crop in field number 1 because we let it grow too much. So yeah, we really need to see to those weeds very, very quickly. But luckily, our canola in field number 3 didn't have any weeds because we ploughed it up, and this is the first crop that has gone in it. So it's weed free, which is a bonus. So what I'm thinking is we'll actually go and buy a weeder to help with the weeds, so we're not incurring any herbicide costs. But if we have a little look at our chicken coop, we can see that we've got some eggs. So they have been busy making some eggs over the month. So we've got 6 pieces of eggs. I think that means 6 full cartons, but that's 61 kilograms, so still quite a bit of eggs. And the chickens look pretty happy here. Nice. So now onto the weed mission, and we of course do have a sprayer, but I'm thinking that we will save some herbicide costs by actually going and purchasing a metal weeder or a hoe, and that is going to just rip those weeds out whilst they're in their infancy, and that's probably the better and older-fashioned way of going about it. So we'll head over to the distribution centre and see what they've got on offer. Right, let's take a little look. And it looks like they got something suitable. There's this Lizard Harrier weeder. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And it needs 50 horsepower, which we can handle. And it's 4.6 meters wide. And this is basically going to use these little spikes here to rip out the weeds in the rows where we need to, and not going to disrupt our current crop that's in there. So we are going to go ahead and buy that, and luckily it's already matching up to the tractor. There we can get hitched up here, and that is a nice match to the tractor. Happy with that. Let's jet on back to the homestead and get to weeding. I think the weeds are quite sporadic in the field. They're not covering the whole area, but nonetheless we will need to cover the whole field just to make sure we do get all of the rogue patches. And we are back, and I think in the light you can see the spread of weeds. They're not everywhere, and I think probably having a little look at the map will help us see where they are and aren't. Now if we take a look at the map, we can see field 1 with our wheat, field 2 with our barley, and field 3 with our canola. And that's all looking good. They are in earlier growth stages. And if we look on this map, unfortunately, it is a bit of a mess because we haven't got 100% coverage of secondary fertilizer. That's okay. That's pretty negligible for now. But we do have random rows of weeds, which is very interesting. So if I turn it off, you can see the difference. Yeah, we've got weeds covering all over. So yeah, the best thing is to just go up and down the field. Might be quite difficult to see where we have and haven't been, but I will try my best to make the coverage as good as possible. So let's start going around the edges, and then we'll start breaking it into some rows. we will lower this weeder, and as you'll see, we can drive in the crop. We're not damaging it because it's quite early on in the growth stage, whereas if we'd have left this till a little bit later, we probably would have been damaging the crop quite a bit and making lots of tram lines, which ultimately just reduces the yield of the field. So yep, ideally we want to get the weeds seen to as early on as possible, and no weeds is going to mean that our field is going to yield higher. The weeds aren't going to compete with the crop for light and from the soil resources, and that's going to mean we get more wheat and barley for us. Well, our chickens ultimately, because I think it's probably going to go to chicken feed. We'll see how we get on. I'm going to get this all seen to, and hopefully when we're done, we've got 2 fields with all the weeds cleared out. I'll see you then. And there we are. We've weeded both field 2 and 1. And I think Artemus has even been in there, probably grabbing some that we have missed. It's a very difficult job to see where you have been and haven't been. But I think we've covered up most of the areas. I'd say 99% of weeds have been removed, which is very, very handy. And that's just going to mean that the weeds aren't going to grow to the full height and then compete with the crop that's in there, and we should hopefully get a good yield out of there. Right, I think we're going to need to find a place for our weeder. Probably in front of the manure spreader is the best I can do for now, if it will fit in the shed. It is a bit wide. Does not fit. Over here is the next best option then, in front of the sprayer and the spreader. Right, we can stop as it's midday and have a little break, but let's just see how we've done with weeding those 2 fields. So that is looking much better, and as promised, I think it's about 99% clear. There's a couple of little bits here and 1 or 2 little flavours of green in there, but nonetheless I'm pretty happy with that. And again, that's just testament to the type of equipment we're using. It's older and non-modern equipment, so we are going to miss bits. It's more rustic farming. We haven't got anything modern to help us out and to see and spray the weeds, for example. So yeah, rustic farming makes rustic fields. So now that our fields don't really need touching until harvest time, because they are drilled, rolled, fertilised and also now weeded, they shouldn't really need to be touched until they are ready to harvest, and that is a long way away. So we're going to be turning our attention this afternoon to selling some wood, because we have quite a lot of wood in the wood storage yard. I think, yeah, 175,000 litres. And we are looking a little bit low on the bank balance, so we need to sell some wood to make some funds. Not that we really have anything in mind to purchase at the moment, but I am going to be setting my sights on expanding the little homestead a little bit further. And I think that out this area to the back is where we need to expand to best. We might need to move the firewood production and make a little track that's going to head on in here. But I would like to clear a rectangular section behind where all of our wood management area is. Possibly for some productions and possibly for our next field, but we will see. But we need to jump in the Volvo, grab the log shovel and get to loading. Grab our shovel for logs. Very good, this log grab. Seems to just work perfectly with our wood storage yard. And we will get deposited. I think it's 6 logs at a time we normally do. And we can fit 12 logs in the front and also the back section of our trailer. So that's a total of 24 logs that we're going to be taking on each trip. Let's get this requested. Ta-da! Very handy that. And of course, because we are lacking any modern forestry equipment, the wood storage yard has been a bit of a godsend, to be honest. Otherwise we would have been spending a lot of time doing log management. But yeah, this really just gives us a bit of a helping hand. Alright, this looking a little bit heavy, so let's get it down to the 3 that we normally carry. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to work my way through the wood storage yard and we'll do a trip or 2 to the wood sell point and hopefully get the bank balance looking a bit healthier. I'm going to crack on with this and I'll see you once we've made some good progress. We've made it! Fantastic! So we've got a full trailer loads worth of logs and we're going to sell this now. Before I do, I think I've discovered a neater way to stack the logs. On the rear section I was sort of high tipping the logs, so getting the wheel loader and the log shovel on it quite high up and then dropping the logs into them so they do a little bit of rattling around and organising themselves. Whereas on the front section, I actually lowered the wheel loader in and sort of pulled it backwards to latch onto these big log forks, and it just sort of rolls them off quite level. And it seems like the front section has stacked a lot neater than the back. So yeah, got a different approach now to loading the logs in this trailer, which is pretty good. Let's get these all sold. Fantastic, 29,211. That's pretty much what we're normally used to. So that's a good price and got us up to 35,000. Fantastic. And we're back. And Artemus is still lingering around in that field. I think he enjoyed weeding. You can see the really deep tire depressions in the ground here from our heavy load of logs. We'll get this spun about so we can set up for the next load, which I'm probably going to do in a little while. Go. Set up. Like a train pulling into the station. We'll leave the truck and we'll load it there. I will return later on to load some more logs. But probably for the last thing today, I am going to be setting up something that is going to help us with seed production. And here it is. Now this looks like a cement mixer, but it is actually a production that can make seeds. But we do need to fill it with some type of crop and also some seed treatment liquid, which we'll need to go and get from the distribution center. Hopefully they've got it in stock, but got a feeling that they do. So yeah, let's take a little look at this. So the seed production, and we can use any of the following crops: wheat, barley, oat, sorghum, sunflower, soybean, canola or corn to make seed. And one thing that we've got a lot of at the moment is sorghum. Now we are going to be using it for chicken feed primarily, but this seems to only take a small quantity. 320 litres is the capacity for incoming materials. And what we will be creating from this sorghum is some seed. And of course we'll need some seed treatment liquid, which I'll need to go and purchase. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the farmall and the flatbed trailer over to the distribution center, and hopefully we can get some treatment liquid, bring it back, and then we should be all set. The plan is that we can then use that seed once created. We might have to take some from our stocks initially, but we can use that seed and the manure that we get from the French dovecote to actually speed up the production of our open garden, which will make it yield a lot better. Go, got the flatbed, so let's head over to the distribution center and pick up what we need. We made it, and as chance would have it, they do have the seed treatment liquid, and we can buy 20 litres of it for $60. And one thing I've also spotted at the distribution center is this fuel barrel, which we can purchase, fill with fuel, and take back to the homestead and use to fuel up our equipment as we need to, because it comes with a handy pump. Fantastic. $160. There we go. So we've got both items loaded up, so let's strap them down and then we'll head on down to the fuel station, get this barrel filled up. Made it. Let's spin around so we can get this barrel topped up. And that's nicely topped up, so let's head on back to the homestead. We've made it back, and I think we're going to put the diesel fuel barrel somewhere over here. There we go, we tucked it between the two sheds, so we should be able to come and refuel here quite nicely, and it's also near the workshop, which is also handy. Right, let's get this seed treatment liquid over to our little mixing station. Ooh, I want to drop it. There we go, it's taken the whole 20 litres. So next we need to put some sorghum in it, and we can grab that from the trailer. There we go, should only be tipping a small amount, 320 litres. And in it goes. Fantastic. And if we take a look at the seed production, okay, we should have probably bought 2 boxes of seed treatment liquid, but can buy more of that next time we're down there, that's fine. And we're filled up with sorghum, so we should be able to activate this, and that's going to turn 100 sorghum and 0.3 litres of seed treatment liquid into 100 seeds. Wow, it is working fast. I think, oh, it's already got some seeds in there by the look of it. It seems to come pre-loaded, but yeah, it is absolutely smashing through and making the seeds. Look at that, in motion. Perfect. I think it runs off a little battery or a motor that's in there. So we'll leave that whirring away, and once it's made some good seed, we can put that in our commodity storage and use some of that seed to put into our open garden. And we can also get some manure in there to speed up the production. And we are currently growing sugar beets, and we've got more than we know what to do with really, so we'll have to sell some at some point. Yep, we are going to have a much faster sugar beet or whatever crop we decide to grow processing open garden. But that is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed watching. If you have, remember to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't. I hope to see you again next time on The Frontier Farmer. And until then, I'll catch you later. Cheers all. Bye bye.